St0ner radio. Alright, I'm figuring it out here.
Go on, security.
Go.
Go on, security. Get out of here. No more security, friend. We got.
We got a podcast.
We got work to do. I'm gonna put. All right, so this episode can only be 50 minutes long, so I'm gonna have you start the stopwatch. All right.
Are we rolling?
We will here in 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome in episode number 2. Technically week 3, but episode number 2. We didn't do one last week because there was really nothing going on other than the games that we had talked about the week prior, so we decided not to deal with that. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these games last week because they didn't pan out the way we thought they would.
Right.
Let's start out with Nebraska Northwestern. So Northwestern and Nebraska played in Dublin, Ireland, in Aviva Stadium, which is like the Irish. That's their rugby field, and they had that converted into a football thing for this football field for this. And Northwestern gets the upset, 31-28. Nebraska was 13-point favorites. We both picked Nebraska to cover that, and we got screwed. Casey Thompson, 25 of 42, 355 yards on a score. Ryan Helinski for the Wildcats, 27 of 38, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the running back for Northwestern had 22 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, this game really it came down to one move that Scott Frost did, and I don't think you really agreed with it early on there.
Definitely going with in the third quarter an onside. That's, as a head coach, that's something you really got to look into. I don't know why you're trying to gamble that hard, but that's decisions that get you fired. So
you think so? So how long do you think until he gets fired? One of my inside reporters was talking about his buyout cuts in half on October 1st. Okay. So they would only have to pay half of what they would pay him now if they were to let him go now.
Right.
So do you think they're going to wait until October 1st when it cuts in half, or do you think they keep him for the whole season and then cut him loose at the end of the year?
Yeah, end of the year. I think it's a little too early still, so definitely probably a little end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised, but if it gets better, like let's say for some weird reason they beat OU or something, does that save Scott Frost's job if he goes if OU comes into Lincoln and they beat OU? Does that save his job?
That would be a big win. I don't think it would save his job. I feel like they might still get rid of him at the end of the year, depending on their record. Really, I feel like if he goes 500, he might have a chance. But
yeah, so he can't go 3-9 again. Right. That's what you're saying. If he goes 3-9 again, like it's done. What do you think would be a win total that might be able to save his job?
Maybe 500, maybe a little above.
So you think 6 or 7?
6 is a little, 7 probably would save his job. Anything lower than that,
gotta be bowl eligible, right? Yeah. Gotta be bowl eligible.
Yeah,
I would think. Gotta at least show up. But yeah, that game just, I mean, what were you thinking? You're only up 11. It wasn't like they were up 40 and doing it. They were up 11, and you're giving a team a short field if you don't get it.
Right.
I just don't understand. I don't get it. What is Scott? Was it Scott Frost's decision, or was it the special teams coach being like, "Hey Scott, come on, we got this." I just don't understand the mentality of is it first game of the year, might as well just fuck around? What was?
A little too cocky for sure, and that's definitely the head coach's decision. Going into a big play like that, so they're check with the head coach. So that's definitely comes down to him for sure. If they're running the right way, I don't know.
Yeah. You were saying earlier before that you don't really think you can blame Casey Thompson for this loss, though, right?
Yeah, no, he had a good game. Definitely, what was it,
355 yards and a touchdown and 2 picks. And both those picks were tipped by the wide receiver before they were picked off.
I looked at them both. I'm pretty sure they weren't his fault, so he had a good game.
All right, so that kind of that was probably the biggest surprise of the weekend, to be honest. Illinois blew out Wyoming 38-6.
Right.
We both picked Wyoming to cover that. We picked Wyoming plus 10. No, we picked the same. We picked Nebraska minus 13, Wyoming plus 10, and then Vandy minus 6.5. We'll get to that game right after this one, but Illinois I mean, Tommy DeVito went off, the quarterback for them, 27-37, 194 yards and 2 scores.
Nice.
Chase Brown, the running back for the Illini, 19 carries for 151 yards and 2 scores.
Nice.
So getting it done through the air and on the ground. Wyoming they just didn't show up. Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect Wyoming to look as bad as they did. I really thought both of these teams were kind of on equal playing fields going into this. I didn't really think there was much give, but boy, were we wrong on that one, because this thing was more lopsided than I mean, it was just bad. It wasn't a game that anybody wants to watch over at halftime type stuff. So that was that game, and then to finish it off was the nightcap out in Hawaii. And it was a very good vacation for Vanderbilt as they blew out the Warriors 63-10.
Yeah.
So not even close. And Mike White. Now we're talking about this, and we'll get to this here in a second. We were talking about We're talking about of Hiesman odds and like kind of how that's looking. This guy isn't even on the list. And I think for good reason, because I don't know if Vanderbilt really has good odds as far as having a good record this year or being relevant in the SEC. I don't know if that's in their future. But Mike White is for real, Cole. This guy ran for 163 yards and threw for 146 yards and combined for 4 touchdowns. Wow. And only had 8 incomplete passes.
We are talking about Hawaii's defense, but it's still a great game. I'm not going to take that away from them.
I mean, that's 209 total yards of offense from one guy.
Yeah.
Or 309. 309 total yards of offense from one player on the field.
Yeah, it was a great game. You can't really take away anybody in college, really. Anybody who's playing out there on defense in college level. I mean, they're good players, but we'll see how he stands up in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a big challenge for them. I think that'll be something that might be, too early to really crown Vanderbilt as competitive.
Right.
But I really think that if he continues to play like this, there's going to be games Vanderbilt's going to be in that you're not going to expect them to even be in the position to win, but they'll be in that position to possibly pull some upsets. But that's
upsets, maybe get a good win. Maybe.
Yeah, and that also just kind of depends, I think, on just as you said, what the level of defense they're playing. Is Hawaii's defense really that bad, or was this one of those, hey, it's game 1, let's not look too far into this other than we got blown out by 53, and the second stringers definitely got some run, so that kind of really wrapped up kind of the best 3 games of last week. I think that kind of is exactly what we kind of expected as far as entertainment factor. I mean, we thought that Nebraska Northwestern was going to be the game to watch. We weren't wrong. We were just wrong on who was going to win that game. Yeah. The other 2, we were wrong about Wyoming hanging in there, but I think the other one we kind of thought Hawaii doesn't have much of a chance. I mean, it's a good vacation spot. Players always love playing in Hawaii, no doubt. So now we kind of get into the meat of things here. Now, we don't have a lot of high-profile games that we haven't really covered. We covered last week. We covered Notre Dame and Ohio State. We can kind of rehash that a little bit if you want to. Utah, Florida. Yeah. That's 2 games that kind of people are looking at. But the number 1 game is obviously Oregon and Georgia, 11-3. Right now, Georgia is 16.5-point favorites. As far as confidence-wise, you put $15 on Oregon to cover but it was 8. It was 18 at the time. It wasn't 16, so it moved from 18 to 16.5. So we'll have to ask here in a little bit whether or not we want to keep some of these, because some of these lines have moved in the last week. This one obviously getting smaller as people are starting to think that Oregon could possibly do something. Alabama, they're playing Utah State. Not really much to say here. They're 41.5-point favorites, but that's a lot of points. So, I mean, do you think Utah State's that bad? Or do we think that, maybe possibly they could only lose by 35? I mean, that's the big question is, can they just lose by 35? Right. And I don't know if Utah State is really equipped to do that. I think that you might get, one of these 63-10 type games that we saw with Vanderbilt and Hawaii. I think that's probably a score that you could see this week in Tuscaloosa. One that kind of has my interest, though, and I don't know if it should, but Colorado State playing number 8 Michigan. Michigan a 30-point favorite there. I feel like that number might be a little big, but we saw how bad Hawaii is, and they're in the Mountain West. We saw how bad Wyoming played. They're in the Mountain West. Colorado State also in the Mountain West. So, I mean, is this going to be another Mountain West disappointment? Are we going to have one of these games where we're like, I mean, it's Colorado State? Or is it going to be one of those where in the fourth quarter we're going, oh, Michigan's only up 14 or 17 or 21? I mean,
Right.
I just feel like usually Colorado State has the players that are a little bit more equipped than Hawaii and Wyoming. I feel like. What are your thoughts on these 3 games?
Not really sure on the Mountain West. Really, I feel like kind of fluctuate every year. But I mean, Colorado State's typically a pretty solid program, so it should give Michigan maybe a good chance. But Michigan will definitely probably still pull out. I got Michigan 40 at least.
Yeah, you think Michigan's going to cover that for sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on here. Hiesman watch. So we looked at the odds here, and I've got them in front of me right here. Right now, the top 5 players, according to Las Vegas right now, is C.J. Stroud, Ohio State's quarterback, Bryce Young, Alabama's quarterback, Caleb Williams, USC's quarterback, Will Anderson Jr., which is Arkansas's quarterback, and then Texas running back Bijan Robinson rounds out the top 5 that they've got right now. Now, Bijan Robinson is still a 2,000 to 1 odd to win it. So really, they're thinking it's really between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Bryce Young is at plus 350, and C.J. Stroud is at plus 200. So he's the favorite right now as Ohio State's quarterback. They definitely have a long list of names going down this. I mean, Dylan Gabriel is on here. Quinn Ewers is on here. Tyler Van Dyke is on here, who I believe is the quarterback for Big Ten school. Not Illinois. That's Tommy DeVito.
I'm trying to think too. Maybe
which one? Why does that name sound familiar to me? Wow, brain fart. But who else is on here? Bo Nix is on here. Spencer Sanders is on here for Oklahoma State. Casey Thompson is way down the list at plus 8,000, and after this last week, probably dropping a little bit more, but nothing that you couldn't turn around. Max Johnson, the starting quarterback for Texas A&M, at plus 8,000. A lot of these guys kind of clumped together at like the bottom here. You even have Tua's brother, the Maryland quarterback, rounding out like their top 30 or how many names are here at plus 12,500. Now this is as of 2 days ago. So this does kind of include last week. So it does. So he's still plus 8,000. Casey Thompson is, but that puts him in a group with Spencer Sanders and Will Rogers and Spencer Rattler, who's also at plus 8,000. So that still puts him in that conversation.
Right.
But overall, I'll give you my top 5, and then you go ahead and take this, and you kind of tell me if they've got this one wrong. So I do think C.J. Stroud is at the top. I think that you definitely have a good quarterback for Ohio State, and there's a reason Quinn Ewers left, and it's because he knew he wasn't going to get that starting job this year and wants to get reps. So he went down to Texas, and he got named the starter after Hudson Card was rumored to get the starting job, and that whole thing was kind of a mess. But apparently they're solidly standing with Quinn right now. Bryce Young at number 2, I see no reason why not. The numbers for him, they don't really strike me as super impressive, but that's because, as we all know, Alabama usually has a good running game to kind of complement, so your quarterback's not really forced to throw 45 times a game or 42 or 37. If Bryce Young throws for over 35 attempts, I feel like a team that you're playing is probably stopping the run effectively, and that's why. I feel like he should really never go over 32-ish kind of attempts. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Bryce Young as coming into this season?
I feel like what you were saying earlier with C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young being the 2 guys, I feel like we'll see at the end of the year who's really the most relevant. I feel like it just depends on which team's doing the best and which team makes it to the college football playoffs. So we should see that.
Yeah, most likely as of right now, they're both likely going to be there. I don't know if anybody's going to really be beating Ohio State into the ground. I don't feel like anybody's really going to be beating Alabama unless it's Georgia, which, that's another conversation. Because JT Daniels is at plus 5,000 on here. So he's still kind of down the list below even the wide receiver for Ohio State Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's the biggest name coming back on their wide receiving core. I mean, you've even got Keaton Slovis on there, who transferred after Caleb Williams with the USC. He transferred to Pittsburgh, and now he's Pittsburgh quarterback, and they play West Virginia today. So that'll be interesting to see how that kind of all lines up. But I think right now my top two are CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and then at 3, I'm not going to put Caleb Williams because I feel like this is going to be kind of a letdown year for him. I don't think a lot of people are thinking that. A lot of people are thinking it's going to, with him and Lincoln still being together and having that connection, I feel like people think that he's still going to explode for big numbers on offense. The big thing I noticed, though, about him and Casey Thompson, this is kind of a similarity between the two, is they always have their eyes down the field for a big play. There was a play in the Nebraska game where Casey Thompson was rolling out to his left, was being pursued by a defensive end, and had to, spin move back to the other side. And this whole entire time, he's got his eyes down the field, 50 yards down the field, and his guy is wide open down there, hits him in the hands, catch, biggest play of the first half for them. And it set up a score for them. So I mean, that struck me. And then also in the Texas game in particular, you saw Caleb Williams definitely looking down the field to Marvin Mims and guys that were streaking deep. He's always looking to make a big play. I think that won't really hurt him in conference play because the Pac-12 is just kind of weak. But I feel like overall, the numbers, I feel like he'll throw a lot of picks. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like he's still a sophomore, but a freshman, but not. He's kind of in between as far as he's like a freshman technically. I mean, he's not really, because we did burn that red shirt. As far as OU is concerned, they burned it after they pulled Spencer Rattler, and so technically he's a sophomore, but he only played 8 games or something like that. So I mean, I would still say that's mid-level. Playing time. I mean, I don't know. It's just not enough compared to Spencer Rattler, who's played 2 full seasons almost of games for OU before transferring to South Carolina. So I've got Dylan Gabriel in my 3rd spot. And I mean, and it's not too much of a shock. He comes in at this list at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at number 9. So he's still top 10 out of the Vegas odds right now. So I'm not jumping too far ahead of my gun, I don't believe. And the reason I'm picking him is because I feel like just the way he plays. If you watch any of his tape at UCF, it's he throws for a lot of yards. It's a very open concept as far as 5 wide receivers, not a lot of running backs, and that'll change because obviously OU's got a good stable of running backs that they're going to hand the ball off to. I mean, Eric Gray is going to be the starter, and then you'll have Marcus Major backing him up, and both those guys will get a decent amount of reps. So I don't think that he'll be asked to do as much as he was at UCF, and I feel like that's to his advantage because wear and tear is a thing. So I think if you can have him throwing up 300 plus yards a game and not turning the ball over, he'll definitely be in the conversation by December. And my 4th one, I mean, I want to say Bijan Robinson because they've got him at 5. But I just don't know. Who is Texas? Which Texas are we gonna get? Is it even? I mean, the guy's got an NIL deal with Ferrari. He's the big shot. He's the most NFL ready running back in the Big 12. I mean, there's so many things that people talk about when they talk about Bijan Robinson, and I'm just do I want to take that risk though? I mean, because if Texas is bad, he's definitely not going to be in the conversation. I mean, the average amount of wins over the last 10 years for Texas is 5 or 6.5, something like that. I mean, if they're anywhere near that, if they're 6 or 7 games and that's as many as they win this year, he's not going to be in New York. I just don't see it. So I just don't feel comfortable putting him there. I would even be as bold to say that the wide receiver for Ohio State, Jackson Smith-Njigba, probably deserves to be there if he doesn't get hurt. And if that's CJ Stroud's top target, it could be possible that they could both be there. I mean, normally they invite four guys, right?
4 to 5.
4 to 5. I mean,
on the field.
So I mean, and to round it off, I'll just throw this out here just for shits, because I think that this would be interesting if this could possibly happen. I'm gonna throw Mike White out there. I'm gonna throw a guy that's not even on the list. Probably 15,000 to 1 odds. Mike White, the quarterback for Vanderbilt, just because building off of this game. I mean, 309 yards. I mean, if you can do anything like that consistently, we're talking about a revolutionary player here. In Tennessee for Vanderbilt. I mean, no one expected it, but, it could happen. So those are my top 5. Stroud, Young, Gabriel, Smith-Njigba, and Mike White's my dark horse right now. Go ahead and give me kind of what you're thinking as far as your top 5 for.
Similar with yours, for sure. Starting off the list, we're definitely going to go with Bryce Young. A little different from yours.
Okay.
CJ Stroud at 1. Got Bryce Young.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Mainly just because Alabama is always a high-powered offense. He's always going to put up numbers every game, and they're always going to be blowing teams out. So he should put up a lot of big numbers this year. Definitely be starting off at 1. 2, I do have C.J. Stroud next. Just, of course, Ohio State. Big year last year.
Mm-hmm.
Big bowl game. Threw for a lot. And him and Jigma are definitely a great duo. And it'll be fun to watch this year. That will lead me next to, I got the Jackson Smith and Jigma at 3.
Ooh.
I feel like he's going to put up high numbers, being in that offense, being that number 1 leader for Ohio State. So that one should be fun to watch, that connection with those two. Maybe one of them walk in with the Hiesman Trophy. I guess we'll see. It'll be fun to see both up there, because I'm not really sure how they would grade that with him being the receiver and quarterback. I mean, if they're both doing good, they're both going to be up there at the top. So.
Oh, yeah.
And 4, it might surprise you a little. I do have Caleb Williams, USC, with the year he had at OU, just in 8 games. Of course, with him linking back up with Lincoln Riley, it's going to be a big year for him. And, of course, like you were saying earlier, with the conference, they're not really known for a lot of defense. I mean, they're going to put up high numbers. He's going to throw for a lot. And 5, I do actually have one that was on your list as well with Bijan Robinson. He's my 5 slot because he's going to get the ball. Like, it's well known, like the Ferrari deal you have, they said. Like, they know he's one of the best in the NFL already. He's going to be getting touches regardless. And with that being said, the Big 12, he could run all over the Big 12 with just a few blocks. So I do have him at 5 having a breakout year. I could see him definitely top 3 for the Heisman. So.
Yeah, I don't trust. He's not on my list. Bijan Robinson not on my list. Blasphemy. No, I mean, only because I don't know if Texas is going to be good. I think that Alabama game will be a decent measuring stick, but I don't think until we get into Big 12 play we'll be looking at anything. I feel like it might just be a little more hype than that. So that kind of concludes like those first 3 segments. We're gonna hop in here to like some Thunder stuff for like just 2 seconds here. So Chet Holmgren obviously got hurt, tore a ligament in his foot, had surgery the other day. They said it was successful, but he's out for the whole entire year. So big time blow for the Thunder. Yeah. But the injury update is positive. What are your thoughts on whether or not the Thunder should just tank again for this French dude? Or Wembanyama,
right?
Or do you think that this is going to be a year where they're still going to probably slip into that play-in game conversation?
Not too early, but just knowing the Thunder, at least from last year, that's the best you can base it off of because it pretty much is last year's team, of course. So, I mean, it's a tough loss for sure for Chet. I mean, it was a little expected for me. I hate to say it, knock on wood. I never wanted any injury to happen to him, but with his frame and build, I kind of saw something going south. Maybe not preseason. I was thinking maybe during the season, but it'll probably be a tank year for the Thunder, of course. It's gonna be tough, being a Thunder fan. You see all the Thunder stuff.
Oh yeah. We are surrounded by a lot.
Had to throw it in there.
Yeah, you can see some of it, but I'm covering up most of it. Look, there it is. Let's go Thunder right behind me over
Thunder
here.
Thunder balls. We got it all.
Yeah, he's got autographs up here. Like we are Thunder stands.
Yeah.
So we're homers for sure. No debate about that.
Definitely.
But I mean, I kind of agree. I think that we're probably looking at another year where the Thunder aren't looking, fantastic as far as record wise. I think the over-under for games won this year is like 23.
Jeez.
And out of 80, that's a lot of losses.
Yeah.
That's for 40 losses. Like, that's rough.
Tank for the French dude.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, the dude's a beast. I mean, he's 7'5" and can knock down 3 balls. So, I mean, I can't really say that I'm...
What's up with all these overseas guys coming in?
And dominating?
Luka, we don't have enough guys here. Like, go down to your local YMCA. Like, look at all the guys. I mean, some of them are bad.
But none of them are Victor Wembanyama.
I guess.
I mean, yeah, but we've had busts, too. I mean... I would call Ricky Rubio a bust because people thought he was going to be like fantastic, but he was like kind of mid.
He had a
couple good years, but he was never like all-star Ricky Rubio. Like that was never his thing. I mean, you've had Tony Parker that came from France, great player. Manu Ginobili from Argentina, great player.
Yeah.
Dirk Nowitzki, obviously great player from Germany. I mean, we have had a lot of these players that have come from overseas in like the FIBA, like Euro world, like style, and have kind of translated decent. Like you bring up Luka, obviously, you can't down that.
Luka, favorite, of course.
Jokic, the Serbian. I mean, he's also 2-time MVP. I mean, hard to kind of ignore that success.
Right.
But do you believe that guys coming from overseas might be overtaking some of these American-born players? Not that it really matters, but I mean, like, do you think that the international game is actually kind of catching up to the NBA on a certain kind of level?
They got a lot of MVPs, of course, in the league, so it's hard to say. I mean, Luka's MVP, Jokic, all these guys are MVPs, so I wouldn't say they're taking over. I would just say they have a lot coming over that are MVPs. They don't have any really just growth.
And you're talking about like for their teams back home, obviously, because I mean Luka hasn't won one yet, but I mean like he probably will.
Yeah.
As far as NBA MVP, I mean, and Jokic has 2 NBA MVPs, so that's at least one person we know has established himself as dominant. And you could say Luka's dominant.
Very.
So I don't think anybody's debating you on that.
Should be MVP.
Should be. Should be in the running if he can get some help. Give that man some help. My goodness. I mean, if there was even, can you imagine like if him and Jokic were on like the same team,
right?
Like in the NBA?
That would be nice. Him in Denver would be nice. Trade Jamal
Murray. Get Jamal Murray for Doncic. You think they would do that? You think that?
I mean, it would probably need some draft picks as well, but I mean, that would be a decent trade. He's a great player too. I mean,
I don't hate it.
I feel like he's a little bit of a sleeper out there. Jamal Murray out there in Denver. I feel like he's just a little bit.
Especially after being
what he did in the bubble was unbelievable.
Yeah, being gone all last year, like that obviously impacted Denver. I mean, when you
ACL.
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it was an Achilles. I think that was somebody else. I think it was ACL. But he was out for the whole entire season last year. So seeing him back this year will be fun, especially with them.
The great shooter.
He is.
Curry. Watch out for him this year.
Okay. Well, and I sent you something on Twitter the other day that shocked me. I think it shocked you. No. Buddy Hield has the most threes made in the NBA over like the last 3 seasons.
I didn't even know.
Like more than Steph, more than like he has been going off.
I didn't even know.
And I think that someone needs to at least put him in a 3-point contest. I don't know if he was this last year, but somebody please put him in.
I think he was in a few years back.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he needs to do it again. I mean, and I think that him being up in Indiana, I know it doesn't really do much for a lot of people. I mean, I know you got him up there, and like really nobody else. It doesn't seem like. I mean, who else is up there in Indiana? I mean, I know Sabonis is out in Sacramento now. So who have you got in Indiana?
Couple guys. Victor Oladipo,
is he still up there? You might be right about that.
No.
He's in Miami. He's in Miami.
He's moving around.
Yeah, he's moving around. These last 4 years for Oladipo have been like everywhere. So I feel I'm not blaming you.
Orlando, Miami,
OKC. He's turned into a journeyman really fast, but he's still valuable. Like he still brings valuable asset. Like especially off the bench. Like I don't feel like he's gonna be going anywhere as far as like he ain't gonna be starting nowhere. But
my guy's got a realtor on call.
He's got a realtor on call all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I think that overall, a lot of international players say that FIBA is more like it's skill based more than it is like, about, physical attributes. So like you don't see a lot of guys banging like down low in those leagues. Most of those guys, they say the shooting is a lot better over there as far as like you have more shooters on a team than usually the NBA, because NBA you've just got these dudes that are just bulked up out of their minds, going in and driving the lane and dunking on fools. And I don't really know if you see a lot of that in FIBA action, but we're not exposed to that over here as much. So what do we know other than sometimes we get good players from over there that end up being NBA phenoms? I mean, that's really the only relationship we have, at least to me. I don't know about you. I mean, I've never really watched a full game of FIBA basketball. The only time I ever watch international teams is Summer Olympics. Or Summer Olympics. I mean,
they do have highlights.
And those go floating around. So I mean, that's kind of our limit to exposure. So we might be talking out of our ass and out of our comfort zone as far as that goes. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to see a takeover anytime soon. But I think that they have contributed in a positive way that I don't think a lot of people foresaw 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I feel like now it's more common because you've got guys that have the means to go and travel or send their kids somewhere overseas, like, or to like an Australian league, like LaMelo did, and then go from there to the NBA, because I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't want to I wanted to still play professionally at 19 or 18 or whatever,
Right.
So I mean, you've got people here that'll send their kids overseas and then they come back, but you've also got basketball as a whole, I think, growing as a sport more and more every year. So I think it's not one of the most expensive games to get into. Like for football, you have to buy all this gear. Same with like hockey and baseball. You got bat, glove, and uniform. For basketball, it's like you got a ball, 5 guys, and you just need like jerseys, and that's it. Like I mean, sure, you need like a place to play and stuff, but you're not, as far as like starting your kid off with a sport, one of the cheaper ones for sure. Like that and soccer probably. So we'll see. I think that's an interesting topic. We'll probably touch more on that later.
Definitely.
But overall, we both agree that we're probably tanking for Victor.
Definitely have to tank for sure.
So let's get into our picks. Let's go ahead and do that. So last week we didn't pick any games that were happening until this week, so I'll just rehash that. So the way we do it, if you guys aren't familiar, is we each give ourselves an imaginary $100, and we go, online, and we see the odds, and we bet via confidence, via how much, like if I think I'm super confident in the game, I'll put $50 on it. There goes half my money because I'm that confident and I'm making money on that game. And vice versa. So if I put like $5 on a game, that means, I feel, it could go either way and I don't feel comfortable at all. So as of last week, Oregon and Georgia. So we can talk about this again because the line has moved. So we both picked Oregon plus 18. Now that it's down to 16, how are we feeling?
I still got Georgia. It's
gonna be, because you don't still have nothing because you picked Oregon last week.
Oh, I did.
You picked them to cover the 18.
Okay.
You said they wouldn't lose by 18 or more.
Okay,
you said they lose by 18 or less. How do you feel about that now? I mean, you still picked Georgia to win. Yes, Georgia would win in your scenario, but will Oregon cover the 18?
They should.
But now it's 16 and a half, I guess I should say.
They should. I still got at least Oregon by 3 touchdowns probably, so I think they'll cover that.
So you think you're switching it from Oregon covering to Georgia covering.
Yeah.
Okay. So Cole is gonna go with Georgia minus the 16 and a half. And I'll stick with my plus. Hey, I can't just throw my favorite team under the bus. All right. I'm not just gonna I'm gonna give them some hope. I mean, the only thing I'm basing it off of is the win last year against Ohio State. I mean, no one picked us to win. We were, 14 or 15 point underdogs, and we won outright. So I mean, that was so. But so you've got Georgia now. Now that the spread is lowered, you're like, okay, Georgia minus the 16 and a half. Okay, got it. So Notre Dame, Ohio State. I'll see if that game has moved at all. We had it last time we met. We had it at. Ohio State was a 15-point favorite, and you picked Notre Dame to not win, but you picked them to lose by less than 15 points. You thought they would lose by like 10 or something like that. I picked Ohio State to cover and win by like 21 or more.
But I have to switch one on that one too.
Yeah, because Let's look right
Let me see
here.
the line real quick.
I'll price switch on that one.
Purdue versus Ohio State. Odds. Here it is. All right. So, as of right now, 11 hours ago, this is from VegasInsider.com. This is where we're getting most of our stuff is Vegas Insider. Okay. So this shows kind of all of it. Most sport books have increased it. They have increased it to Ohio State minus 17 now. So they think Ohio State's going to win by more than 15 this time. So do you still like your Notre Dame pick? You think they're still going to hang in there by 2 touchdowns? You think it'll be that close, or do you think that Ohio State blows them out by 17 or more?
I got a blowout.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you gotta switch it. Okay.
Yeah,
So we're gonna go with the same one on that. So both of us are picking Ohio State minus 17. So I like that. Utah and Florida. This one was Utah was only a 2.5 point favorite in this one, and you picked Florida to pretty much win outright, unless they lose by 1, which I would be shocked if the game came. It will be kind of shocking. I'm not gonna debate that. So, Utah versus Florida odds this week. Okay, so still 2.5. So still 2.5. So that line has not moved at all. So, and you've got $5 on Florida covering. So you're not super confident in it, but you're not losing a lot of money if you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that.
Okay, I've got $25 on Utah covering the 2.5 and winning by like 7 or 10. NC State playing Eastern Carolina.
I had NC State.
You did have NC State winning, but you have Eastern Carolina covering the 10.5, so you think it's going to be a close game. I've got NC State winning by over 10. So
I'm gonna switch mine to yours.
Okay. You think okay. So we'll scratch that out and we'll both because you got $25 on that one. I got 30 on it. So, and this is your most confident game is USC versus Rice.
Oh yeah.
And you have USC minus the 35. I have Rice plus the 35. I've only got $10 riding on that, though. You've got 45 riding on Caleb Williams and the Trojans. I don't think that line has moved, but I can look at it real quick. I'm going to see. Let's see. All right. Here. This is from 3 days ago, though, so I mean, well, it'll probably be updated, but it's still a lot of these have it at minus 32.5, but Vegas Insider still has it as minus 35. So
yeah.
So let's just go ahead and drop it to 32. Boy, that means they're a little bit more confident in Rice than they were 2 weeks ago. I mean, I'm only losing $10 on this, and I'm just gotta hope that USC only wins by 28 or 31. I'll keep it.
They're gonna got 40 on them. They're gonna got 40 on them.
Yeah, but will Rice at least drop 10? I mean, if Rice scores 10 and USC scores 40, do you think they're gonna blow them out by 40 no matter what, and be like 63-10 like the Hawaii Vandy game was?
I got something 50-7 or something.
Yeah,
like
something crazy. Okay, yeah, that's pretty confident. I would say that's pretty confident. So that's where we're at right now.
The Trojans going crazy.
Yeah, that's where we're at. So we don't really have many results as far as like the sport book goes, but overall picks right now we're both 1 and 2. Week 1, me both went 1 and 2 the first week. So not terrible. So let's go ahead and we'll pick some of these games straight up just to keep picks going for people, because that, we don't have to wait on those really as much at least. Let's go with the games tonight. We got 2 games tonight that people will be watching. We've got Oklahoma State playing Central Michigan, and West Virginia playing Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on West Virginia and Pittsburgh?
Man, it should be kind of close. I feel like I got Pittsburgh pulling it out, but
Yeah.
West Virginia might throw a couple points on there.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, you thinking Pittsburgh by like 10, or you thinking Pittsburgh by like 17? Like, how close are we thinking?
I got Pittsburgh by 10.
Yeah, like around 10. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, as we said earlier, they've got Keaton Slovis now at quarterback instead of Kenny Pickett since he's in the NFL now. So that's the transfer from USC that went over there. So they've got that. West Virginia has been picked, I think, 6th or 7th in the Big 12 is like where they're supposed to be at. So I think I think that's probably right. I mean, I feel like both these teams are not super impressive.
Yeah.
But they're not like super bunghole. Like, right. I mean, it's like they're not trash, but you know, it's like saying if you were to put like West Virginia in the Mountain West, they'd probably like win like the whole entire conference probably.
Yeah.
But like in the Big 12, there's just no way. There's just too many good teams. I mean, and the ACC is kind of weak. And last year you did have Pittsburgh and Wake Forest in the title game, which no one saw coming at all.
That is weird.
And that was because Clemson didn't do well.
Yeah.
Miami didn't do well. North Carolina didn't do well. NC State didn't do well. I mean, and now you have NC State supposedly supposed to do really well this year.
Yeah.
Clemson's up there again. North Carolina's kind of lurking in the shadows. They're not ranked or anything, but they could be one of those teams where by the end of the year you're going, they're decent. You know, 8 wins maybe 9. I mean, it's possible. That's like the ceiling for them because they did have Sam Howell leave, and they had a lot of guys overall in that team that aren't going to be here this year, so they definitely have dropped a little bit. Miami, they've been saying decent things about my old ball coach at Oregon, Mario Cristobal, shipping himself out there to Miami and trying to bring the Hurricanes back, but I mean, we thought we would have seen Miami come back years ago probably at this point, so I don't know how much confidence I have in them being, you know, a top 2 team in the ACC.
Right.
Wake Forest lost their quarterback for, they said indefinitely, due to a non-sport related issue. So it feels like it's an outside force, but he was the only thing really keeping them in the conversation. So I feel like you have to kind of drop Wake Forest out of the conversation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, I think it's probably the most up in the air conference in general.
Right.
So having Pittsburgh be the best team out of there might not be insane to say.
Yeah.
But is that going to be better than the 6th best team in the Big 12? That's kind of where you're at. So
it's hard.
It's not easy. It's not easy. I
think
really,
about it for a second. I'm like,
it's
West Virginia.
Yeah,
they
like,
do have that one guy, the new quarterback.
I
think he's from maybe Georgia, I think.
Oh yeah, they've got is that Stetson Bennett?
Maybe.
Or is that's JT? No. Is there JT Daniels? That was from Georgia. He was so because Stetson Bennett's a starter at Georgia.
Yeah.
And so the backup JT Daniels, he went to. So it'll, and that kind of does make it a little more interesting because I forgot about that. Because when I saw him on the Hiesman odds, I was like, he wasn't low on the list. He was kind of mid.
Yeah.
So they think that West Virginia's gonna be decent. Like
they do have a couple.
But them being decent is still 6th in the Big 12 though, because you got Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas, and OU is supposed to be top 4. And then like the 5th and 6th are kind of Kansas State and West Virginia. I feel like is what people have right now. Obviously, that'll change. I don't think that conference standings are as reliable. I feel like they're just as unreliable as top 25 sometimes, except for like the top 2 sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, last year, as I said, ACC just got blown up because Clemson didn't play well and Miami didn't play well. They thought it was going to be Clemson and like Clemson and like North Carolina or Clemson and Miami that were going to be playing each other in the ACC championship last year, and ended up being Wake Forest and Pitt. So I mean, like, it can happen where weird shit happens. But yeah, that does make it interesting. I don't know. I think I don't know. I might go with West Virginia just because it's different. I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel like this game is just kind of like there's nothing that's really like pulling me towards one team where it's like, oh, this is the obvious pick.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like this is the game for that. The next game, kind of a little bit more, which is Oklahoma State and Central Michigan. I think everyone's kind of rolling with OSU on that one.
OSU. Even though they did have that big upset back in, what was it, 18?
And I watched that again. And I'd
Unbelievable play.
forgotten that play was never even supposed to happen. Because what happened was, with 4 seconds left in the game, OSU took the snap and Mason Rudolph just chucked it into the stands.
Yeah.
It was 4th down. There was no time left on the clock, but the refs were like, well, it's intentional grounding because there was no wide receiver over there. So it was also a turnover on downs because it was 4th down. So technically the ball should change hands with no time remaining.
Wow.
And that was the one untimed down they got, was that play.
Wow.
But they came out and the Big 12 said that shouldn't have been the call. The game should have been over, and OSU should have won the game. They said something about intentional grounding can't be used in that context to add a play for the other team.
Okay.
Like, you can still inflict it,
Yeah.
but the other team isn't going to, like, I mean, I don't even know what you would do. Like, can you even call intentional grounding in that form or fashion, or can you only call it when there's time left? Because if you can only call it when there's time left on the clock, then that kind of makes sense, because that'd be the only way you could just be able to just throw it up anywhere and just hope it just runs out by the time the ball hits the ground.
Yeah.
But it was definitely interesting because all those refs got reprimanded after that game.
Wow.
So something definitely, but the bottom line was they were never even supposed to be able to have the ball back after that point.
Gotcha.
But it doesn't take away from the fact
It's still
that they
amazing
won
play.
that game. Yeah, there's and that was the thing, is they won the game. They didn't take the game away from Central Michigan or add a win onto Oklahoma State's record and say, oh, well, it's just, don't look at it.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think it cost Oklahoma State kind of, as you know, the positioning in the rankings and kind of where they ended up at the end of the season. Because if you add one more win onto their record, I could put you up 2 or 3 spots. And they were, I think, in the top 10 at that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that definitely dropped them down to, like, the teens because, losing to an unranked team at home on a Hail Mary, that shouldn't have even been a Hail Mary. Like, I mean, it was 4 yards short and he laterals it back. Like, I mean, and some people thought that dude was even on the ground before he even got the lateral up to the dude, which would have also negated the touchdown. But, beggars can't be choosers, and facts are facts, and L is an L, and sometimes refs make mistakes. And I just wish that there was sometimes a way to correct some of those mistakes when it comes down to a play like that, where it's like you can obviously say that play shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Because it's just, sometimes it's like, oh, they miss a call, but you can't really do anything about it because, there's still time left and there's still another snap and you have to think, next play, short memory type stuff, right?
Right.
But in that case, it's like literally didn't have to happen. Like, the game was effing over. Like, it was done. So, that type of situation, I feel like, should be treated differently than the previous one I mentioned, where there's actually, like, time remaining. What are your thoughts on that now that you've kind of been rehashed with it?
Man, I didn't even know that was the case on that. I just thought that they had an extra play at the end of the game and scored, and I thought that was it. I thought it was up. They reviewed it, but now that they're saying it should never happen, and knowing that what happened in the play before for it to happen, I felt like they should have cut the play out completely. Should have dropped Central Michigan's points and had LSU with the win.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people thought, because obviously when you're watching it live, and obviously that day no one's saying anything. They're just like, oh my god, like, this just happened. Like, no one knew about the fact that it shouldn't have happened until 2 or 3 weeks later last year, that season. I guess that was 2 years ago. But it's just like, I don't know. To have something that bad happen, but nobody knew. Like, nobody sitting on their couch was like, oh, that's wrong. Like, they shouldn't be giving them an extra play. I don't think anybody was, like, bitching about the fact that Central Michigan got the ball back and got one more chance, because I think 98% of people were like, this is just going to be batted down or picked off. Like, there's no way that, like, they're going to score here.
Literally.
Like, that was the other thing. It's like even if they had that extra play, no one's thinking, oh, this is going to be it. Like, oh, they've got a chance. Like, they were literally, like, 5 yards behind the 50-yard line. Like, it was a heave. Cooper Rush, the greatest Dallas quarterback of all time for the Cowboys. Cooper Rush, your backup for the Cowboys. Maybe not for much longer, as well as who was the backup this preseason that played really well for them. He was
name.
He was wasn't he a Big 12 guy? Fuck.
Can't think of his name. Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. I know it's. It was a Will Greer. The West Virginia quarterback.
Okay. Will
Greer. Yeah. I think that's who. Yes, it was. It was Will Greer.
Yeah.
Will Greer. Yeah.
He had a good year.
Yeah. So
they beat Texas.
Yeah, so I mean, like, everyone beat Texas. Shut the hell. Texas lost their last 6 games, Cole. No, everyone, even Kansas beat Texas. All right, and that's not. You can't hang your hat on beating Texas anymore until they get back to relevancy. But yeah, no, like I mean, Will Greer might be making Cooper Rush lose his job, but for that moment, Cooper Rush for Central Michigan was a hero. Great. But I mean, that was no small feat to chuck it, 40 yards and have the presence of mind to even flip it back. And then even at that point, the guy still had to outrun the OSU defender to the corner of the end zone.
It's a great play.
I mean, it's great. It's fun to watch. But it's like, and everybody at that moment and like 2 weeks after that was like, it's just unfortunate. Like, what were they thinking? Like, this is some Boise State OU type shit. Like, I mean, it wasn't as big of a stage. Obviously it's no Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, but it was still like, shouldn't be losing this game to Central Michigan. Yeah. Which my point was you should have never been in the spot for them to even be that close to begin with.
Honestly, I was going to bring that up too.
That's the point. I think that people forget is it's like, why was OSU even not winning that game by like 21 points? Like it's Central effing Michigan, and then you're like
2 touchdowns at least.
Yeah, at least. But then you're like, oh well, you see they had an NFL quarterback for Central Michigan. It's like, shut the hell up. He's a backup. Like he's not starting. He wasn't a first round pick. Like shut the hell up.
Right.
Like it wasn't like he was freaking Tua Tagovailoa out there. Like 5 stars, top program. Like this dude's at Central Michigan, probably got recruited by nobody. Yeah. And obviously great story. You find yourself on an NFL roster getting paid money. I mean, that's great. But you can't sit there and go, oh, Central Michigan was better than we thought they were. Like, no, like shut the fuck up. Like they were not. You just lost and got, egg on your face at the end of the game because your safeties were sleeping because they were like, there's no way, bro. No way. This dude, he's not even going to be able to throw it this far. Like, no way. Like, I mean, I don't know what they were thinking, but they obviously weren't thinking we need to, bat the ball down or cover anybody. I mean, they literally, it looks like they played that as a throwaway down on defense for them, and it was like but they were thinking this is it, this is our chance to possibly win this thing. I don't think they thought that they were going to pull it off. I don't think anybody can predict that amount of craziness,
right?
But no, I think this one's going to be different.
Revenge this year.
Yeah, this is going to be this is going to be ugly. I want to see the spread on this because I think that's going to really I think that's really gonna.
I got OSU by at least 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Spencer Sanders coming back this year. They have a really good offense. Mike Gundy.
Oh yeah. Right now, Oklahoma State is favored by 3 touchdowns, 21 and a half
I like
points.
that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, look, there's no one on Central Michigan's team right now that is at any level even close to Cooper Rush at the quarterback position or any of those wide receivers that he had. Don't let it happen. I mean, and you're talking about a defense, that's 2 years removed from that situation. So you've got new guys and you've got guys that have left, and I think that, yeah. It'd be so bad. Like, I mean, like, and it's like, oh, like we don't think OU's gonna lose to UTEP this weekend either, But it's like, if
Gabriel torn ACL.
Oh my God, knock on wood. Like that's like the last thing. That's like the last thing they need. But hey, might be a chance for General Booty to get in there. General Booty. Hey, people have already gotten them in the mail. I've seen them on Twitter. They're great. I don't think a third string quarterback's ever had this much hype. Like since
Why did you choose OU?
I think because I think he knows that Dylan Gabriel's one and done. Like this is gonna be like his senior year, so he'll be gone, and then all he has to do is be better than the backup they've got now, which is they had the
roster depth chart just came out.
Yeah, I forgot his name though. Like that's because usually like the backup is pretty decent. I'm looking on time.
Let me see here. 53 minutes right now.
Oh, okay.
Little long today. Don't
Yeah, a
worry.
little long.
Don't worry about it.
I sent it to you, didn't I?
I thought I had it. I think it's on OU football. I got it there.
It's the backup. Like a major, like.
Here we go. Davis
Belleville.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the backup. So I mean, all he has to do is beat out that guy. I don't know. I feel like that shouldn't be too hard for General Booty.
I'm surprised to see Stoops here not starting at the slot position. They have, I mean, of course, Mims, but I thought Mims.
They moved Mims from outside to inside.
Yeah.
That's been the big thing for them, is moving him from outside wide receiver to the slot position, and then Drake Stoops is his backup.
Wonder how Stoops feels about that. Him being
probably fine, because the thing is I feel like they'll just have them on like
rotations.
Yeah, they'll have them on rotations, and I mean Stoops is good enough where I feel like he'll definitely get equal or more reps than last year. I just feel like it'll open up Mims a lot more, because riding down the hash with someone slick. I mean, that's what they did with Hollywood Brown a lot. They put him in the slot. Sterling Shepard was in the slot a lot, so it's not new to OU. But anyways, what we're saying is General Booty definitely has a chance of beating out
General Booty
for Hiesman this year. General Booty for Heisman. You heard it here first.
Wow.
But yeah, so I think we've covered some good stuff today. It was a good episode, more kind of clean cut. You got everything going. You got your mic now. We can hear you. We're mic'd up. So and we appreciate all the downloads for the first episode. Obviously, this one will be better. We got a new overlay and got everything popping over here technologically. So we're hanging in there.
We'll have games up soon.
Yeah. We'll get the TV. The TV getting figured out will be the new a new entire plot line for this podcast to see if we'll ever get it working. So. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode. For Will Warren, Cole Murphy. See you guys later.
We're out.